Hey everybody, this is Perch. I get asked from time to time, this is one of those regular questions that come up. Basically, what can I do to help change comics? And it's an interesting question. I mean, it's a fine enough question. It's a little bit of a. I mean, first off, this is somebody who they have read comics. They're enjoying comics as a customer, but they want to do more. They feel compelled that they need to do more, that they want to actually influence comics, not just consume them, not just read them, but influence them. And so one of the first things I always say when I'm asked that question is, well, your first step of influence comes from what you buy, comes from what you read. Are you buying what you like? Are you letting people know? Are you basically exercising your full rights as a customer, as a consumer, to let people know what you're buying? That's step number one. But if you want to go further than that, the step number two is usually kind of goes into two places. Either you can help fund comics in a greater, bigger way. This can be everything as simple as joining an artist's Patreon and kind of funding there. It can be funding a crowdfunded book. It could be there's a number of different ways you can help basically put financial money into the equation. The other route is make a comic. As simple and trivial as it sounds, if you want to influence comics, you have a good idea, you know what to do. Make one, show people how it's done. Make it. I think that for a lot of people, it comes down to if you have no ideas, but you feel compelled to want to help, then you're going to become a money person. You're going to become a financer. If you have an idea, then you take your idea out into the world. Those are really your two routes. It's important though to have a plan, and I think this is one of those cases where you have to have you can't just want change. You have to at least have some vision of where you want the change to go. I'm going to give an analogy here that hopefully won't rile people up too much, because I definitely speaks to the heart of a very controversial issue for people right now, and that's the vaccine for COVID. There's a battle that's brewed. I mean, one of these things that I hope at some point that people look back on is how we got to this place where the vaccine itself became so highly polarized. And if you've been riding along with this story for the last year, you might remember that a year ago there's a different president in the White House, and the opposition party, in this case the Democrats, were very skeptical of the vaccine, including the current president would say things like, I wouldn't trust that vaccine. And then the party flipped, and the new party inherited the plan and the vaccine and the problem, meaning the virus. And then suddenly it's you need to take the vaccine, and the people who are the Republicans suddenly kind of flipped, and now they're skeptical of the vaccine. There's a lot of reasons to go into it, a lot of people who have these their reasons for doing what they're doing, but I'm hoping that at some point in the future there's like a post-mortem, meaning not in a grim sense, but a post-mortem is a term used in a lot of tech companies, where you basically, once the project or the task, whatever it is finished, people kind of gather together and go, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, what can we learn about for the next time. I think postmortems are a very valuable tool. I wish more companies did it. Hell, I wish comics did it. Unfortunately, it's all too common when a comic is successful or something goes well, and you ask, hey, how did how did this happen? What are you going to do to replicate this success in the future? And people go, I don't know. I mean, I was as surprised as anyone who was successful, which is always as somebody who is in the chain of trying to sell these comics, I hate that answer, as you can imagine. I absolutely hate that answer. But I hope somebody does a postmortem on this vaccine rollout to go, how did we get to a place where it was so politicized that parties flipped basically their point of view, and it became a topic of warring against each other as opposed to warring against the problem? Who's responsible this? Who helped do this? Because what's strange is, I mean, maybe it speaks to the kind of the sad nature of our current times and the people within it, because we've been going at this COVID business for now over a year, about a year and a half. And you hear things from people going like, I'm so tired. I give up. People who don't want to take the vaccine are like, screw them, let them all die. I mean, we've been trying for so long. for so long to get these people to take the vaccine, and they just won't listen. So I'm done. I'm done. Even the president came out like, I'm frustrated. It's like I look at that and I'm like, it's been, since this vaccine was really available, like 8 months, less. You're exhausted after 8 months. Like I mean, good Lord, I hope we never have a long protracted war. I hope that there's never I mean, the Great Depression went on for, as it turned out, longer than 8 months. Like a lot of things, the cycle of a new iPhone getting released to the market is longer than 8 months. You spent 8 months trying to convince people to do something poorly. You failed, and you're tired. It's been 8 months. That's insane to me. I mean, there are runs of Captain Marvel that have gone for more than 8 months. It's true. It's amazing to me the lack of fortitude that this our current times seem to have, where you have people in the past who had to go out and do really hard things, and doing really hard things tends to take a while. It takes years, and I think man, this current generation, there's no way any of them have the strength to invent or accomplish anything. It's like 8 months, I'm out, tired. Sorry, even though this means disaster for everyone. But regardless, what does this have to do with comics? Because you have to have a plan. You can't just have a desire to do something. You have to have a way to execute on that plan. That's where the pragmatism comes up. You have to have a number of steps and a number of things you need to do in order to achieve the result you want to achieve. And I think this is something that is missing in comics a lot, where people either launch something or have an imprint. I mean, hell, I'm still not puzzled is the wrong word, but this Al Ewing run of Guardians of the Galaxy, he comes in from Donny Cates. The Guardians of the Galaxy under Donny Cates was probably the one, I don't want to say misfire, but it was probably one of the lower reviewed things that Cates has done for Marvel. Generally, Cates' time at Marvel has been celebrated. He's had hit after hit, and he's the guy who can do no wrong. But his Guardians run was just kind of shaky, I would say. It didn't hold up as well as the others. Now, he may be proud of it. I have no idea, but I'm just in terms of the market, that was one that didn't do as well. So Al Ewing comes in, and there was a lot of fanfare. Al Ewing, science fiction writer. He's, this should be right up his alley. Great. He gets in, he does this launch. It has kind of a weird, confusing middle to it. They almost do a complete rebrand and relaunch of this series. They bring in a bunch of new team members. They get a big trifold cover. They do this big, for 4 or 5 months, this countdown. The thing is, I think they're doing the countdown to the kind of the new moment in Guardians longer than it took the new moment to survive before the title was abruptly ended or canceled or whatever you want to call it. And it strikes me as there's no plan here. I think that with a lot of comics, and it goes back to, if you want to help comics, if you want to get in or do something, you have to have a plan that is longer than 8 months, a plan that is, has some different options to it. Like, I'm going to try this for 2 to 3 months, and then I'm going to measure the results. And if the results aren't what I expect, then I'm going to go to plan B, and this is how it's going to go, or I'm going to adjust. And all in all, I see a lot of kind of the path of kind of current comics, how things are being rolled out, how they're playing out, and also a lot of people's careers within comics as well. There's a shocking lack of plan in a lot of cases. I am amazed at, I've met some very great people in comics. There's a lot of very talented individuals. I'm always surprised when I meet somebody who's like, their financial plan, the ability to kind of survive, feed themselves, seems to have a very small window, like a 30-day window. Like, I need to make sure I land a couple more books or I won't be able to pay rent next month. Not from independence, that's fine. I mean, when you're working your way up, everybody has to start somewhere, sure. But, people who are working on an X book, people who are working on a Bat book, you shouldn't be looking in like a 30-day horizon. You shouldn't be writing that way. You shouldn't be planning your life that way. And I think that there's this lack of plan is I don't know. I mean, is this just the way it is now that we do things and we have such a short window? It I had an idea for a comic a while back, and it's one I may still get to, but it had a lot of depth to it. But one of the things it was going to answer is what would be the impact of a world that has superheroes to the people who aren't superheroes? Would they be inspired by the heroism, or would they start to just live very fatalistically? Would they start to just think, I mean, hell, if I could be wiped out in an instant by a superhero accidentally falling onto my house during a battle, completely outside of my control, what is the point of anything? If if there's tons of superheroes and I drive recklessly, a superhero is just going to save me. So, again, what's the point? What do I need to? Why do I need to worry about anything? And it's a comic I still want to do at some point and write and kind of put all together. It had a much bigger story than that, but that's kind of some of the backdrop. But I couldn't get over how depressing it sounded. It just sounded like I'd have to really work hard not to make it seem like a complete and absolute grind in order for the readers to, find something enjoyable about it. But it feels like that's kind of a mirror for the way the industry works itself of, we can only look 2 or 3 months ahead and there's nothing else. So if you want to help comics, you can do it financially. You can make a comic. I think both are viable options and good options. But make sure you have a plan. Make sure that before you spend a dime, before you lift a pencil, before you do anything else, paint out what you think the future looks like. And maybe even do it in a very old school way. Grab a piece of paper and a calendar and just mark some goals over the next year, 2 years of where you'd like to be. This is helpful in life. You see this advice crop up a lot of people don't take it. Very few people actually do this because they say, yeah, it sounds cheesy. Why should I have to do this? But there's something powerful in the act of actually writing down a plan where it feels more real to you than just thinking it in your head. A lot of people are like, I can keep it in my head. Yeah, but actually writing it down feels more official. It does something chemically in your mind to actually make it feel real. And if it feels real to you, you start executing on it. You feel like you're working off a lot more stable ground. It's helpful. I don't know. I think that if you have a desire to help comics, awesome. Get in there, help them. Make sure that you're testing the ways you're helping to see if it actually is making any difference or not. But it's admirable. So I hope you do go out there and help comics. Comics always needs all the help it can get, and good for you if that's what you want to do. Anyway, questions, thoughts, better advice. I'm sure there's a lot of different advice. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.